So awesome. I wanted to there we go. Alrighty. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight at our artist speaker event. My name is Sarah McLean, and I'm an AmeriCorps Conservation Director with Conservation Nebraska. Conservation Nebraska protects our state's natural legacy by educating the public, supporting communities, and increasing civic engagement. Tonight, we will be speaking with Ceyenna Kanne. Ceyenna is a Nebraska-based graphic designer with design experience across both digital and physical media. She currently holds a degree in interdisciplinary art and psychology, and currently works at Pixel Fire Marketing. Her lived experiences in both scientific subjects and artistic endeavors have led to the intermingling of these two subjects in her art, with her most recent piece of performance art focusing on the life cycle of 3 endangered Nebraska insects. This piece is currently featured in the Creative Community Conservation exhibit and the Osborne Family Gallery in UNO's Chris Library. So Ceyenna, I want to say thank you for speaking with us tonight. I also wanted to just kind of get started with where you feel your artistic journey started.
Yes, good question. I'm so happy to be here. I feel like this could be a cliche answer, and I could say I've felt artistic for my whole life. But really, I started to realize that I could do art as my career. At the end of high school, in my senior year, I really bonded with my art teacher, and my best friend's an artist as well. So we kind of went to UNL together and found our passion for art there. And then I felt like at UNL, I had this huge area of talent, and I just didn't quite know where I wanted to be as an artist. So I embraced the unknown, and I started honestly as an undecided, and then I just traveled through the studio art, and then they told me I could do interdisciplinary art, which it's a long word.
Yes.
But the amazing part of it is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's multidisciplinary, and I got to decide what pieces throughout my college career I really embraced and found passions for, and I got to bring that together. But there was a focus of digital art. So long-winded answer, but really at the end of high school, I started to find that I wanted to do art in some capacity for my career.
Right. I saw also on I noticed that you worked in the UNL lab for a little bit as well. Did that tie in when you were studying interdisciplinary art? Because I know you mentioned with this piece, you were inspired by some of your scientific research. How would you say that specifically choosing interdisciplinary art, how did that play into other passions of yours?
The digital lab, are you mentioning?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What was the question again?
No, it's okay. I was going to say, I guess, would you say going into interdisciplinary art, how do you think that played into other passions of yours, maybe like science or other things like that?
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Yo, no. That was I couldn't wrap my head around what lab I worked at, and then I remember.
That's okay. That's fine.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I halfway through college, I was doing graphic design as my degree, and then halfway through around my sophomore or junior year, I felt like I needed something else, and I could not decide what that was. And then I took a intro to psychology, and then I was like, oh, this is it. So I was like, I can't let go of art. So I added psychology as a degree. And that's when the science really started to play into my art and interactivity and making people think when I created art. And then if we go fast forward to insects and bugs and my love for that, I took an entomology course. That's where everything just kind of connected. I had always been creating art with some there'd be conservation or insect themes throughout projects in my beginning art projects in class. And then when I added psychology and took those science classes and just branched out from the art school, I was like, I have to pull in what I'm learning in my other classes into my art practice. And so, yeah, that being interdisciplinary, I felt like I was given permission to pull all those things I was learning and not just holding myself to create like traditional art medium type
Right.
pieces.
I was about to say that kind of ties into my next question as well, which is you mentioned you mainly worked with digital art. What drew you to make a mixed or to make a performance art piece like the one that we see in the gallery today?
Yeah. One, I wanted to kind of go out with a bang.
Right.
I had like my first semester freshman year, I created a headpiece of it was a chimera of a fly, a beetle, and a praying mantis. And I loved that piece. It was one of those first pieces that I really was like, it got a lot of recognition. It showed me that there's like physical art and sculpture was something I really loved, like making those big pieces, and wearable art. Like I had a lot of fun making that. So like that piece had stuck with me throughout my career,
Yeah.
throughout college. And then as I got to my capstone project, I wanted to create something with like a call to action, something tangible that made sense in what I was passionate about. And so that's when like the Salt Creek tiger beetle was something that had always been on my mind, and I wanted more people to know about it. And then I started finding out, one, I love the monarch too, and I pulled that beautiful insect in, and then the American burying beetle. And so those three, just I was like, I have to show people these insects. So how can I do that? And how can I kind of like put it in their face? And so
Right.
that's when the idea to make human-sized insects came about. And then I wanted to do animation. There was digital pieces in this video animation, but I pulled that piece from my freshman year and I made it, I showed how I had grown and made it more well-rounded and had that call to action, like these are the amazing unique insects we have right in our backyards, check them out.
Magnify them so people know they're there.
Exactly.
Um, I guess this is a good point to go right diving into this piece. Could you just tell us a little bit more? Because you mentioned the call to action and everything that's contained within this piece. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like what the piece itself is about, and then also for like maybe your process, because I know you mentioned a little bit about where the mask came from, but I'd love to hear more about the behind the scenes kind of deets on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Metamorphosis had it kind of encompasses what the title means. It goes through their life cycle, and it has a lot of drama. I dramified metamorphosis, and I just one from that entomology class. I was like, there's this that's happening to these insects, and I at one point I really called them the aliens on Earth, because they come in so many forms, and then
Right.
they end up being so beautiful, but even their larva states are incredible.
Yes.
So that's where metamorphosis began. Is I took that entomology class, I researched, and then I started developing the performance aspect of how am I going to turn these insects into humans,
Right.
and give them characteristics and bring out personalities and personify them.
Mhm.
But I really started with research. So I actually met with a entomologist at
Oh, wow.
the Henry Dorley Zoo and talked about the Salt Creek tiger beetle. I went to entomologists at the entomology department at UNL and just talked about bugs and
Yeah.
got to know them better, to
Oh,
understand them better. And then I switched to the art side and
mhm.
jumped into like, how am I gonna make these people look like bugs, make my actors or my performers look like bugs. So I first started with the choreography of, and I met with a theater, a dance instructor, and I just talked about this because it was like I had to do these interviews so I could learn and just understand, and it made me more confident in like my moves forward. So I started with the choreography. I was very fortunate to have a dance student as one of my performers, so he really helped me as well. And he was my Salt Creek Tiger Beetle. So he was amazing. It was really funny. This is a tangent, but he's 6 foot like 2, and the Salt Creek Tiger Beetle's the tiniest insect. So I thought that was ironic juxtaposition.
No, that's funny. It makes me think like, someone who, or like the beetle is going through something and struggling the most. So you pick the biggest person to be like, I'm right here. Look.
Exactly. I love that. Exactly. That's what I meant.
Yes.
But yeah, and then from there, I started kind of prototyping the costumes, and I got into cosplay foam, and I absolutely I just did research on like how can I make insect parts. And something that I had to think about from the beginning is at the very end of Metamorphosis, there's this life cycle change that I added in, and it's the drama part where they take their pieces off and they set them on the ground. And so I had to make my costumes detachable. And so I had to like go through that process, go through dress rehearsals, make sure they could crawl on the floor because some of them have to. And so I had to do a lot of hot glue and Velcro. And so I had a lot of fun, and I was so fortunate. You brought up the digital lab. So I worked in the digital lab, and I got to use a laser cutter, and I felt like that really helped me create some strong pieces. I laser cut my monarch wings, laser cut fabric, and then I laser cut the foam. So it just helped me get those precise, lovely costumes that I created. So I was like a resource. Like I just used the resources I had, because one, I was really sad that my college career was coming to a close, but I reminded myself like there's this huge, vast network of resources here. And so I just kind of like jumped into as many as I could and like soaked it all up as I was leaving, and left on such a positive note. So, and then after I got the costumes, then I brought in a videography student, and that's I really loved the Emerging Media Arts is a new school that UNL started, I believe they started as I was kind of in the middle of my college career, which made me sad because I love that school. I would have loved to been there. But so I worked with a student there who was going through film studies, and they just helped me understand lighting and how I wanted to make this a production, and how to film animation inside of film. It was like, it was that was so much fun. I was still constantly learning, and we filmed Metamorphosis in a weekend, because we were all students, and I had to one piece together at a time so we all could work together, and then find time that I could rent out a classroom.
When everyone's days overlap, you're trying to find that one golden hour.
So that and I'm pretty good at organization, so that was fun for me, and I just like grew with those students and got to know them, and we got really close that weekend, and over the time we had worked on this, so it was amazing to just know I had this collaboration with talented students all around me and supporting me, and we made such an amazing piece that I'm so proud of, and I will continue to just show off. But I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that was perfect. Honestly,
Okay,
I would say also, I guess after creating this piece, have you found yourself, do you have any other pieces in progress that you're working on currently with And have you found yourself tending towards the same topic with more of like the entomology and leaning into the bugs? I'd love to hear more about that.
I I don't have anything like in the works. I've done a lot of sketching. As I
Mhm.
found it a very interesting transition coming out of college and being in such a creative environment to
Right.
moving into creativity in the work sphere. You use a
Mhm.
lot of your creativity at work and you come home and I'm still kind of working through that on how I have all this creative energy still. But I
Right.
haven't quite found a project that I wanted to dive into. I'm still sewing. I love sewing now after that. But
Yes.
right now I was working on a project of these flowers. So I moved more into like the plant side. That was another thing I learned a lot about was native plants and for like the monarch
Ooh,
and just like other pollinators. So that's something I have wanted to start exploring is like the plants that these insects use as homes, as where they lay their eggs. And so I have a beautiful pollinator garden that I get to walk through every day. And that's so I'm more physically creating art with plants, I'd
hey.
say, and gardening.
Yeah.
Doing more of like a home-based art, but I don't have any like digital or like drawings that I've been creating. But I'm going to hold myself to this and start creating more.
Yeah. That's always how it is, though. I mean, and that first of all, that gardening is just as much of an art in and of itself. You have to put a lot of love and care,
Yeah,
less so in with pollinators that are like natively here, but it's
absolutely.
still like it's such a labor of love.
Yes.
Um, and I'd love to hear more about your garden if you wanted to talk about it, but we don't have to.
Oh, my husband would be able to tell you the scientific names.
Yeah.
I'm learning more of their common names. And then our garden, like our vegetable garden, I'm pretty good at. But my husband is kind of this wealth of knowledge. And I love that I have a partner who
Someone
took
who
what
takes
I
like,
was learning and just we've expanded.
yeah. Oh, I love that. And then I would ask also, do you how else would you say that conservation topics, whether they're related to entomology or if it's another field of conservation, how would you say that that has impacted your life outside of art?
Yeah, I
This doesn't have to be like a super answer,
no,
so.
that I realize that there's even if we are one, like I'm just one person
Right.
making a difference, um, it's so daunting to think about the way our world is progressing. And it's so easy to get into that mindset of like, well, I'm just one person. So what is my difference? But if we do take into account our footprint and like what we are doing as that one person,
Right.
um it's really opened my eyes to being aware of how I'm leaving the world.
Yeah.
And then also just I understand why we need to respect our environment more. I have this respect. I'm like, and I think I ask why a lot
Right.
more. Like, why do we need perfect green lawns? That's
Right.
one that just jumped to my head. Or why are we spraying these insects?
Right.
Is there another way we can, like, this is going to be a side story, but we
Oh yeah.
have swamp milkweed right outside our door, and these huge black wasps are always there.
Mhm.
And I now have a respect for them. They
Mhm.
don't scare me because I know I can walk by them and I'm not hurting them and they won't hurt me. So I think it's just given me a respect for the environment that I wish I could have gone back and developed sooner, honestly.
Right. No, I love that. And honestly, I feel like this ties into something that I mentioned with in one of the last talks, but the idea that oh gosh, I'm blanking. oh yeah, the idea that artists and scientists ask a lot of the same questions.
Yes.
And once you learn how to like translate those questions over, like seeing that in a new light, being like seeing the beauty, the color, the like shape and
Yeah.
form. And like you mentioned, working with people who are in different disciplines, also like videography and like someone who's dancing, you know, as well. Like that is so I feel like all of that ties into like life that you don't really think about when you're just looking down, like, oh, there's a beetle
Yes.
on my front step. What is that? You know?
Exactly. Or like, yeah, and some people's initial reaction is to like kill it. And it's
Right.
like, wait a minute.
Wait, no.
Why is it there? What's its purpose?
Exactly. He was probably there first, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Um, I guess I have one final question as well. What would you recommend for someone? Uh, I was either like at the end of their career, at the end of their college career, or maybe someone who's just looking to get into something new in life. How would you recommend that they get started working on a project like you have, or start going in a similar path that you have?
Yeah. I say ask questions, and I guess network would be the word I would use, but see who's around you that you can ask those questions to, who have spent time researching this area that you're interested in. That's where I started. Is I learned it never hurts to send an email or a message and just say, hey, I'm really curious about this, can
Okay.
you tell me more? And that's how I talked to someone at the Henry Dorley Zoo. And
Yeah.
um, of course, I was so fortunate in the college sphere. They're so open and willing to talk to students who are interested.
Yeah.
But it never hurts in outside of college or anywhere. I feel like people loved talking about what they love doing. So just send that message that all they can say is no, and that's okay. And then
Right.
you just find someone else. And that would be the first step. And that's what I did with Metamorphosis. So there's amazing people out there, and having a conversation is probably it'll make your day, and you'll learn. You'll always be learning.
I love that, and I feel like it'd make their day too. That's
Yeah.
such an awesome
Yes.
answer. Oh,
Yes.
perfect. Well, honestly, I'd love to give you like a second to just like plug your portfolio. If you have a shop or anything, I'd love to like just give you time to plug your info real quick.
Yeah, I don't have a shop, but
Mhm.
you can check out, I have burntceyenna.com. That's my like creative art
Mhm.
site. And then I have my professional portfolio, but that kind of ebbs and flows. So I won't promote that, but please follow me at burnt sienna on Instagram, and kind of that's how you can keep up with me and what I'm creating. Instagram is my main platform. So I hope you'll
Awesome.
follow me.
Yes. Well, thank you, Sienna. This was awesome. It was such a pleasure talking with you. You're a joy, and honestly, it's so cool seeing the like different ways that you can mishmash like those scientific parts with the art and like using all these different things and just putting them together into something beautiful. So
Yes. It was great talking with you too.
yes, awesome.